Hello! Road Does Politics here, back with another video after several weeks of not posting, so I'm sorry about that, but let's get to it. Today I wanted to talk a bit about North Korea, seeing as it's a topic that keeps getting brought up loads in the news because they just keep on being quite provocative in their nuclear weapons program. As we all know and have heard, the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, who is the leader of the very dictatorial one nation state communist country that treats its citizens like crap, like surveillance police state, is continuing to test its nuclear arsenal, its nuclear weapons program, testing of, like, from what we've heard, a hydrogen bomb most recently, which is several times more powerful than the bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. Fuck me, that is terrifying. Like, I can't imagine how they would have done that. Like, it must have been like in an underground like chamber somewhere where they've been testing loads of other nuclear. I don't know, but it sounds absolutely like we should all be alarmed by that. Like that is not, like, you shouldn't be doing that. Anyway, so yeah, I wanted to talk about North Korea as well as like the ethics of war, like in the 21st century, how it seems to have evolved a lot from like decades ago, like how it's changed and how much more corrupt it's gotten. Because we just as a world, as a planet, as a global community, it seems that we always seem to be in a state of perpetual war. Certainly the case with like the US, that has the biggest military complex in the whole world. Like it's huge. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that and how ethical that was, and how what we should be doing to tackle it if we can. So I think we can all agree here that North Korea is becoming a bigger and bigger problem in the world. It's becoming a bigger threat. Its actions and provocations to other countries, including Japan and America and all the smaller little countries around it. It's just becoming a bigger threat, and we don't really know why, like whether North Korea wants to be fully recognised as a nuclear state, or they're being defensive, or they want to be aggressive towards the US, and we don't know, like it's a little bit unclear, but it's clear that we definitely do need to do something about it, and fast, before a war breaks out. And whether it's a conventional war or nuclear war, either way, millions of lives will be lost on either side, including those people in South Korea who are the immediate risk of death and destruction. So based on that immediate threat, you would expect someone, a world leader of some kind, to, you know, come in and calm the waters a little bit and just try and ease the tension. Even President Putin of Russia has come in and stated that military intervention would be very irresponsible, and, you know, you shouldn't do it because it's going to be dangerous. And he's right. He's fucking right. And Donald Trump, on the other hand, we've heard him say that, you know, if North Korea persists, then it will be met with fire and fury, the likes of which the world has never seen. I'm glad I've never seen that kind of fire and fury, because if we did, then most of us would probably be dead and living through a nuclear winter, which none of us want, frankly. And you know, we heard recently during a UN Emergency Council meeting, the US Ambassador Nikki Haley described North Korea, the leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, as, quote, begging for war based on his actions and threats, and you know, continuous testing of missiles and ICBMs and such. Begging for war, and then she went on to say that war is something that the US never wants, and we don't want a war. Like, of course you do. I look back, and there's pretty much never been a time since after the Second World War, where the US has not been involved in some kind of military conflict, whether it be, Vietnam, Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, the Gulf Wars. There's been so many conflicts that you've involved yourself in, whether it be to do with toppling a regime, or for oil resources, something that you can take for granted, so you can use all of their minerals and stuff for your own gain in your own country, whatever, for whatever reason. They've always been involved in a conflict. And I think I said that the US has the biggest military industrial complex in the whole world. There is no military bigger than theirs. So they've got a military that rivals 7 other countries combined. I think it's something like $620 billion worth. That's so much money. So much money. And speaking of the military industrial complex, they don't just serve themselves. They sell their weapons to other countries, especially in the Middle East, where they've got 32% worth of their arms sales go to the Middle East, and places like Saudi Arabia. Weapons that have been manufactured by the US, companies like Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, are being used in the Middle East by terrorists. Yep. It's not just the US that I'm talking about. There are countless other countries in the West that are just as bad, that sell. The UK, for example, our current government, the Conservatives and Theresa May, are selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, so Saudi Arabia can then drop their bombs that we have made onto civilians in Yemen. Civilians in Yemen are now suffering a humanitarian crisis. There's a cholera epidemic, there's children dying, there's people on the streets, it's just a mess of rubble and death and destruction. And we're partly responsible, because the weapons that they are using, we've given to them. We are giving it to. We've made an arms deal with Saudi Arabia. We are giving them our weapons so that they can then drop our weapons onto innocent civilians. Innocent civilians. And it's just the whole hypocrisy of it that is just despicable. We pretend that we're against war, and we should try and help those in need, and isn't war horrible? It's despicable. We should try and stop this conflict. They're raking it in. These arms companies are raking it in because we're at war so much. There's troops in Afghanistan at the moment that are wondering why they're still there. Why are we still here? And there's kids growing up in Afghanistan who don't know what 9/11 is anymore, because they were born after it happened. And yeah, the troops are currently still stationed there, wondering why on earth they're still there. Why? And it's because military contractors are still saying, well, we've got this contract, it's up by 2019 and who knows when. So these military corporations, these massive conglomerate corporations, their main goal is to keep the war machine going so that they can keep profiting from pretty much death and destruction, and tanks and bombs and missiles and guns and any weapon you can think of. It's disgusting. So that's why I felt the need to talk about it, just because it's just incredibly corrupt, and our governments are trying to hide it under the carpet, because they probably feel guilty about it, knowing that they're doing active arms deals with other Middle Eastern countries so that they can then drop bombs on innocent civilians. And Russia's doing it with Syria as well, to Assad's regime. So guilty parties all round. So yeah, that's pretty much the state we're in at the moment, guys, where we've got 2 crazy nut jobs as leaders of their countries in Trump and Kim Jong-un, who refuse to back down, are just fueling this insane rhetoric it's just continuously provoking. And we need to do something about it, and really quickly, because I fear that this will just keep escalating into something more and more dangerous and more unstoppable as time goes on, because you know, countries refuse to come to the table. So yeah, that's about it. Let me know what you think in the comments if you've got any questions or anything to say about this issue. Please don't forget to subscribe as well. And yeah, I'll see you soon in another video.